Hi everyone. So let's do a collective reading to try to capture some of the energy that's around us. I have 2 oracle decks and 3 tarot decks that we will use to help us. So that's good. We're starting with the sun. So the sun in the Lenormand system is a very successful type of energy. It's like winning the prize. It's finding the gold at the end of the rainbow. It can be about enlightenment, but less so in the Lenormand system than in the tarot. So then we have the Fool and the Two of Cups. So this is definitely about some kind of a partnership, some kind of and a coming together of energies. It feels like there's a really good flow in this energy because the Fool is here too. And the Fool doesn't carry any baggage. The Fool starts new endeavors and new projects because they have completed some other project. And so it's time to level up and start again, start anew. So this energy of the Fool and the Sun and this Two of Cups feels really good so far. In the sense that it feels like there's a mutual partnership that's showing up for you, some respectful and mutual kind of partnership with a good flow and a good amount of balance, because the twos are always about balance. So this does not have so far any feelings of abandonment or chasing or codependency or the things that tend to show up in our love readings. So then finally for our oracle cards, we have trust your path. If you knew you would be supported, what would you do? That's a really excellent question. It's one that we probably should ask ourselves more often, that we hold ourselves back from doing sometimes what we really want to do or what we know we should do. And it's because we're afraid it could fail, or it might not go in the same direction that we wanted it to. It could go sideways, these things. So I feel like it's important that we're asking ourselves this question, that if you absolutely knew there was a safety net under you, what would you do? And at least, even if you decide not to do that thing, at least know what the answer is for you. And I'm seeing this Page of Swords at the bottom of the deck. And the Page of Swords always holds the sword of truth. So I feel like that's what it's saying, is to really understand what your truth is. Like, what would you absolutely do if you knew for sure it would succeed? What's the one thing you would do? And I feel like it's important to at least know the answer to that. So we're starting with the Tower, King of Cups, King of Pentacles, 10 of Pentacles. Underneath, 8 of Pentacles, 8 of Cups, 10 of Wands, 10 of Swords. Wow, wow, wow. And then underneath everything is Judgment. So with Judgment being under everything, and I think I'll flip, wow, look, there's the Two of Cups again. I think I'll flip that over just to be safe. With Judgment being underneath everything, this is about you making a decision. And that's what we were just saying, that it feels like you might be struggling to make some kind of a decision or to take a risk on something that maybe you feel perhaps like you're not sure if you're supported. But yet we have the energy of the Fool and the Sun here, which tells me that you kind of think that you could do this, that there's this feeling that you're making a decision from your higher self as opposed to making the decision from your lower 3D version of yourself, that you're making a high level spiritual decision. And I think that's why we're seeing the Sun and the Fool. And knowing that you're supported, this is telling me that, of course, your ancestral spirit guides are somehow involved in this, because this card wouldn't show up unless you were supported. And the Fool doesn't show up unless you're supported. The Fool is the Fool because the Fool trusts in the universe. The Fool trusts that when he takes a step off of that cliff, that something fantastic is going to happen. It's not that he's going to end up with a bunch of broken limbs at the bottom of the cliff. He knows that. He's spiritually wealthy enough and spiritually wise enough to know what that step off the cliff is going to be. Even if the Fool doesn't know exactly what the results of that will be, The Fool knows that it's going to be good, and the Sun is here proving that. So, but I feel you still wavering. I don't see you making a solid decision yet, although I am kind of cheating and skipping to the end here. I won't do a spoiler alert just yet, but I think if you understand tarot that you know where this is going. But let's slow down and let's go through this column by column, which is the way I read, especially for these everyday collective readings. But certainly you're making a decision. And I think, again, it's important to just know the answer to this question, even if you don't plan on taking that jump, even if you don't plan on taking that risk. Know what it is. Know what your higher self would do. So you're being asked to focus on this Tower and the Eight of Pentacles. So the Tower is about not being in alignment. And this Eight of Pentacles, I've never read it this way before, but this to me feels like a chakra system. Can you see that too? Where like everything is in alignment. And so I think that you are being asked to focus right now on what is out of balance in your life, because I can certainly see that the Ten of Wands and the Ten of Swords are here. The Ten of Pentacles is here too. This is really relevant, but we'll get to all of that. But it feels to me like there's definitely something out of balance, that perhaps you've put too much work into something, or perhaps there's been too much craziness or chaos. But again, we'll get to that. But the universe brings your Tower down because it was all out of alignment. And I can see that it was out of alignment. And so the Tower comes down to set you free in those types of instances. If you're fighting to stay in something, or you're reluctant to release something, that's when the universe has some kind of an intervention and tears down all of your old belief systems, or tears down all of your old ways of thinking, or tears down the relationships around you or the environments around you. A lot of times I read the Tower where you are trapped inside that Tower. Could that be your belief systems? Absolutely. Could that be a relationship? Yes, 100%. But that Tower comes down so that you can be free. And then once you get free, that's when you can start to come into alignment. And that's really how I'm reading this, that's the time when you can really start manifesting your goals and the things that you're trying to reach, and the things that you're working on, creative endeavors, all of these types of things. The Sun is a very creative energy as well. So this is about you being freed so that you can finally come into the alignment that it feels like you're really trying to seek. So in our message yesterday, we had the Eight of Cups fall in the challenge position, and it's still here. So that tells me that you are really kind of struggling to let something go. So we have the Queen of Cups here, and we have the King of Cups here, and this is you. You are both the King and Queen of Cups in this reading. And by the way, you're also the King of Pentacles, but we're not there yet. But you are showing up as both the King and the Queen of Cups, a very balanced masculine and feminine energy, very authentic, very virtuous. The Cups energy is about flow and feeling into what your next step is, intuiting what your next step is, holding space for other people compassionately, but putting yourself first. But that's where I feel like the Queen of Cups is here. The Queen of Cups in you needed to be released from this Tower. So if you feel like the rug was pulled out from underneath you recently, and that Tower came down in whatever context that is for you, your inner Queen of Cups needed to be released from that to help you come into alignment. Perhaps that was the imbalance. Maybe you were putting too much masculine energy into something. Maybe you were chasing someone, but now you're realizing, no, that's not what an honest and balanced and respectful energy would do. These two cups could very well be you in this reading. I tend to think it could be about another person, but it absolutely could be you, because you're showing up as a Queen of Cups who holds a cup and the King of Cups who holds a cup. So these could just be your masculine and feminine sides. I am getting that for sure for at least some of you. But I really feel like you're struggling to maybe find that inner feminine, the receiving side of you, the intuitive side of you, that instead of doing, it's time to receive. And that may be why this Tower had to come down. And I do feel like that's why we're seeing this Queen of Cups here. Especially with the King of Cups being in your challenge position, that it feels like there's some part of your masculine emotional side of you that needs to heal, that you're healing from some kind of heartbreak or healing from some kind of toxicity, or for some of you, it could be addictions. It could be abusive patterns in relationships. Make this part make sense for you and your context, but it feels like whatever that is, you're still really struggling to let that go. You're struggling to let it go. There's some kind of a union that you have with whatever this toxic situation is, or whatever this lack of emotional energy that you have, this King of Cups energy. You have some kind of a connection to the toxicity of it, and it's difficult for you to release that. Wow, then we have the Two of Cups again. So this is about respect. This is about balance. And I feel like there is a lack of that, either within yourself, there's a lack of respect or a lack of balance, or with another person. So you have to make this part make sense for you and your story. But there's definitely a lack of respect and a lack of balance, but you're still struggling to release it. You're still struggling to move away from it. You're still struggling to take a risk on perhaps some other way of thinking or some other way of doing, which is why the universe is coming in now. The Tower showed up here in your focus position. So the Tower is coming in now so that you can continue to move this forward. The message is that the King of Pentacles can take on a lot of responsibilities. The King of Pentacles is probably the most responsible court card. And so, but this is just pointing out, but how much is too much? Just because you can do it, because you're a King of Pentacles, you can shoulder a lot. You can rise above a lot of issues. You can even do your spiritual work and your life's purpose and your mission while taking on a lot of responsibilities. But the question here is why? Why have you taken on 10 wands? Why is it so out of balance? Why are you struggling to put these wands down and put a complete and final end to it? And so I feel like that's the question that's coming through this. What would you do if you knew you would be supported? Would you really stay here? Or do you stay here because you're afraid to release this, or you feel that your only support comes from here? And so I do get a sense that if this is another person, that you're quick to forgive, you're quick to have them return, you're quick to accept their apology. This is what this feels like. But yet at the end of the day, you don't feel any lighter when you take them back. It feels like, oh, okay, well, here we go again. We're back in this cycle. We're back in this tens cycle. Then we have the Nine of Cups. The Nine of Cups is about contentment and about satisfaction. This does not feel like that. But the King of Pentacles is content. The King of Pentacles says, I can do this with or without these 10 wands. And so I think that's why these two kings showed up here, to remind you how powerful you are and that you're taking on this burden anyway. And if you're taking on the brunt of it, if you're shouldering the relationship, or if you're going too masculine and not enough feminine, again, make that make sense for you. This is just saying, just know how powerful you are and that you can absolutely put these 10 wands down. There's no reason for you to still be carrying them. And then your potential final outcome, I love this because I see you wrapping this up. I can see you doing that. I think that's why we started with this Fool card, because this is the brand new beginning. This is you taking that risk on something that is more balanced and mutual, something that is more optimistic with the Sun, because you're trusting your path. The Fool trusts the path. They step off that cliff knowing that they will be supported. And that's why it's important that you ask yourself that. This 10 of Pentacles is here saying that this is all the work that you have done. You didn't need any help from anyone else. So it's time to put a final and irreversible end to whatever this situation is for you. That's a really important message, that there's something new that wants to come in, but you have to make this an irreversible ending with whatever this is for you before you can do that. And then we're ending with the Fool. We began with the Fool and we're ending with the Fool. The Fool, especially with the Sun over it, is full of optimism, full of freedom. This final 10 here, that was the last thing you needed, to trust that you are going in the right direction. You're trusting your own intuition, your inspiration. The Queen of Cups showed up here. I know that this is you needing to be perhaps more intuitive when it comes to putting an end, but this is all about you putting an end so that you can be free to jump off that cliff, which is where you want to be. That's where you're going to find your most spiritual wealth. And I feel like that's why we saw this 10 of Pentacles here too, because that's where your spiritual wealth will be, is in putting an end to this, trusting yourself, trusting the universe, knowing that you're going to be supported, and make a really high level decision from your highest self. So there you go. That is our collective reading. Will you please let me know how this was resonant for you? Consider subscribing to the channel if you like my vibe, and we will do this again sometime. Thanks, everybody. Bye.